Good evening, everyone. I'm trying to get used to this mic. Welcome to the Design Review Board for the City of Aiken. We want to say welcome to everybody. You know, the purpose of the Design Review Board is to review applications for our certificates of appropriateness to make sure that we can maintain the Aiken's historic district and help Aiken retain its character, and that's what the goal of the board is. In a few minutes, we'll review the meeting minutes, and I'll ask for a motion on that. Also, once we get started in the meeting, I'd ask that you, if you are the applicant, that you would come before the lectern and give me your name and address, and please add some words. We'll talk a little bit about your application before you come up, but add any words that you'd like to add to the overall goal of your application. And then we'll ask the board for comments and public comments and so on. If an individual in the public does want to come up and speak, we will have a time limit in order to be kind on everyone's time here tonight. So with that being said, do I have a motion in terms of approval of the minutes? Second. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? I've seen none. It was a unanimous vote. Okay. We have no old business tonight, so it's all new business. The first application, if you would, Rick, read the first application for us. Introduce the first application.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I was supposed to say something about you being here tonight, too. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Y'all have to forgive me. So, unfortunately, our normal secretary, Rebecca's out sick, and Rick has generously agreed to fill in for her tonight. So, thank you for volunteering and welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to read the project description. I'll try to summarize it. So this is a request to partially demolish the existing stables due to their current state of deterioration and demolish 2 existing carriage houses. And the carriage houses were constructed in the 60s. The applicant explained the construction of these carriage houses may have obstructed drainage in the approach to the original stables and therefore contributed to the sedimentation and subsidence. An engineer's structural report included several items that were the result of the deterioration, and so those are listed at the bottom of the first page of the staff memo. And then moving on, the applicant proposes to demolish the rear section of the stables and stabilize the front section with repairs and some reconstruction. The applicant proposes to salvage and stabilize at least half of the stables with a maximum expected salvage rate of 70% of the existing stables. And there's a list of the work that's being proposed as part of the renovation stabilization efforts, and that's listed on the second page of the report. The applicant has noted that there would be a new home on the property, but that would be a separate COA application in the future for the construction of a new home. And so I think I'll just leave it at that unless somebody else has questions.
That's fine. Would the applicant come forward and give your name?
Jeff Burden, 472 Meeting Street, Suite 222, Charleston, South Carolina, 29403.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
We appreciate your patience, and I'm glad you're finally here tonight. So we welcome. And of course, we've heard this several times before, but is there anything that you'd want to add that we're not already aware of?
No, I can't think of anything. I think we've covered everything.
Okay. All right. Well, if that's the case, then do I have any questions from the board? Anybody?
Mr. Chairman, I think in the work session we did talk about the 70% is what you it's a guesstimate still, but, and are we, on this, if we approve it, anything less than 70, would we come back, or I'm not sure how that would work.
Well, it was a range, right?
Right.
Please speak.
Yeah.
So I
Give us
want to
those
make
d-
sure the
those
range
again.
is,
Sure.
it's,
Yeah.
so there's no misunderstanding for
Right.
the
Understood.
public, yeah.
We feel will be between 50 and 70%, and some of that will be also based on reusing existing shake and material and so forth.
Right, and because the important part, given this status of, and the cattywampus is a word I heard in the work session, how difficult this has been for everyone. If there's anything, it's going to be less than 50, then there has to be further dialogue with the
Right.
DRB. Okay.
Right.
All right.
Correct. Well, we would
That
be-
wouldn't count?
That would not count probably because we're keeping a certain distance from the hillside and the failure. But it's a complex thing where we're gauging how much more material we can use. We feel that the final footprint, the resolution of it, will be somewhere between 50 and 70% of the original 100% of each barn.
And,
If you
and,
include the overhang, we could get even close to 75%.
and what you're putting back, you're gonna be reusing the material that you,
We won't be reusing structural
not the
material.
structure, but the
Yeah,
shingles,
the shape,
which is
yeah.
what you see.
Yes.
And you said you'd paint them on the outside so it'd look the
Be a-
same, but you'd have
There'll
it,
be a stain, a dark brown stain.
but you'd have it, on the inside, you'd be able to tell what was new and what was
Yeah,
old.
there's a small reveal that we'll put in at the separation point where the new preservation, rebuild is at the radial end, in case anybody ever wants to see, where that dividing line was.
You're essentially you're paying homage to the size that it originally was.
Correct, with
You-
the landscape and the footprint.
You are taking down the connector pieces that were added later, so those will be demolished. The carriage houses, I know there was a question of whether the carriage houses were a redo or a whatever.
Their material was all from the 1960s.
Yeah, and I know there was a question in the work session as to whether, if possible, not at anybody's owner's expense, but if
Right.
someone would approach that wanted to see if they could move it, if it was feasible, no cost.
I can't speak for the clients and the contractor. I think there would be a timeline issue. as
Yeah,
well.
exactly. It was one of those things, it came up because of friendship. Instead of tearing it down, could they move it? And that was something I just thought,
Also with the expectation, just as the best practices, that it is modern material that's nailed.
right, which we
So it's.
could be
it's gonna-
difficult.
Yes.
So we're not going there. There was something else you mentioned that we wanted to make sure we mentioned. What was it?
The Historic Aiken Foundation.
Yes, the historic, that.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Rick. I knew there was another, to communicate to the public at this hearing where it's public, that the Historic Aiken Foundation reviewed in detail this proposal for it, has worked with everyone, and is in consent or agrees to this plan. And I think that's important to be recorded at the public hearing.
Thank you, Barbara. Anybody else?
Which is more of a curiosity than anything else, because I was involved with the stormwater issue, and obviously there is a lot of unstable property along. How close to that, that comes up fairly closely to the barn, does it?
Well, the
Where you
portions,
demolish-
yeah,
The
the
portion you're gonna
portions,
demolish?
that will no longer be an immediate issue. The H&H Haas Hildebrand looked at it, and, it's not as if the hillside is in imminent risk of
No.
failure in their published letter. But in essence, the fact that the portions that have failed are separated and removed. The portions that are in that 70% maximum salvage
Yeah,
is sustainable away from the hillside.
okay, well, that's good. I was concerned that perhaps that might have been one of the reasons that you were gonna be taking off that portion of the
No.
stable?
No.
It's not, well, that's
They
good, that's
fa-
good to know.
They failed in the structural report.
Well, that's good to know, okay, thank you.
And then in addition to that, for the record, the removal of the later carriage houses will allow us to bring back the original grade to prevent subsidence,
Well,
which
that's
is
good
also
news.
a problem at
Yeah.
the front.
Okay, thank you.
Rick, if you'll go back to that one right there, please, thank you. So just because we talked about it a little bit in the work session, I want to make sure it goes on the record out here that in the light green sections near the top, that's where the old barn sat, and now will be a preservation zone in terms of landscaping. I forget the word you used, Jeff.
We'll use what's called an English mow strip. You know, we'll recreate and demarcate the original footprint of the stable courtyard. Alternately, we could do that with the original barn footprint, but it's just a way of demarcating in the landscape.
Right. And also the fact that the new end, which is on the north part of this table here, you've got the rounded corners, so it really looks like the original barn from front to back.
Correct.
You're also going to eliminate the more modern connection between the lower section where it connects the two barns.
Correct.
The buildings on the left was what Barbara mentioned. The bottom left buildings were going to come out. And
Our period restoration is circa 1927, so
Okay.
we're taking it back to the original Hitchcock barns.
Yep. And also, the family wants a historical marker, which is denoted on this plan about where that's going to go. And the topic is going to be, what
We'll be
again?
focusing on one of the original Hitchcock trailers, Peter Green, and the original families and so forth, as well as the new families involved, would just prefer to be a little bit private. And this is a private marker. I think they're really not doing this as, you know, an asset per se for the city, but would, you know, are supportive of, you know, any kind of historical interest, you
Right.
know, apart from the property.
And so you're here tonight really representing the Bostwicks as they're the owners of record. And in case anybody's asking, the Kisners intend to purchase this property and put a new house, but they will come back with a separate application for the house.
On an adjacent piece on the other
Right.
side, which the section indicates. There were original questions about that, and so a lot of the drawings indicate, you know, that
About where that'll be, but
Section.
that is not part of this application. Right, okay. Okay, I think we've kind of covered everything. I guess I'll ask you to sit down and see if there's any member for the public that would like to add a comment. Oh, I'm sorry, John, I missed you.
Yeah,
Please.
that's fine. I just want to make one comment before Jeff gets ready to sit down. But we, just so for public record, the board went to the property, inspected it, went through it, spent probably close to 2 hours, I guess, out there. Jeff was kind enough, and Ms. Boswick was there too, to show us what the situation was, and it was very plain to see that something drastic needed to happen, and we appreciate everything that's being done now to preserve what's there as much as possible. And you've certainly gone the extra ink to add in the historic preservation model to meet all the different criteria that anybody would like to see happen. So thank you for that, and I appreciate the Boswicks for opening up their property for us to look at, and so I'm glad we're at this point we're at today. Thank you.
Great, okay. Anyone in the public want to speak in favor of this application? All right. Anyone want to speak opposed to this application? Okay, at this time, I will ask the board if they have a motion. Sorry. Thank you, okay. So we have been discussing actually two applications.
We
This
have,
this is why we bring you along. So we need to have
That-
two different motions and two different votes. So if we'll start with the first one, which was the demolition, application. Do I have a motion
Yeah, I'll
on
make
that?
a motion.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, in fact, while I'm doing it, I might as well do both of them. I'll do in
Let's
sequential
handle them
order.
separate, if you
It's-
would.
Yeah,
Okay.
certainly.
Yeah, okay.
First application is for the demolition, and it's CERH 25-004. And there are a number of different things that are cited in the application and by the city, but I'll just, rather than go through all of it, we go back to the design review manual and the sections that deal with demolition, and all of those have been met and approved, and we have had no opposition tonight. So as a matter, I make a motion that we approve this application as presented.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion from the board?
I don't really have any discussion about it. I just want to make a quick comment that I think that everybody here is very relieved that we're at this point for your sake, not so much for ours. And I think that you've gone above and beyond. You've gone beyond and beyond to protect the historic value of the stables, and I think that we all are very grateful to you for doing that. I want to thank you for, like, as our chairman, I stated, I just like to thank you for your patience. We had a few hiccups with a number of things during that time, and you really shouldn't have had to go through all that you went through with this application. I do agree with an awful lot of you that I think changes do need to be made, and thanks to our chairman, and thanks to the planning staff that works for us, they're already in the making. So I just want to thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Pat. Any other comment? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Seeing none, the measure carries unanimously. Let's move on to the next application. Do I have a motion on the
I'll make
stabilization project?
Mr. Chairman, in regard to the application for the stabilization project, CERH 25-037, I make a motion that we approve it as it falls within the guidelines and the precepts as set forth in the design review manual for restoration.
Okay, any second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board? Okay. Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, all opposed? Seeing none, the measure carries unanimously. So you have both your COAs, and thank you for your patience and all your hard work.
We look forward to seeing the Kisners come back with their
Is that me?
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I don't know. It might have been mine. They're definitely very sensitive, so.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself because of a personal responsibility
Okay.
at home.
Well, thank you for coming. All right. Okay. Who's keeping the minutes? Yeah, she's. Okay. Did you get McDonald leaving? Yeah, okay. Thanks. Okay. Mr. Kowick, our next application is Eric and Sally Radford. Would you please introduce that application?
Yes, sir. The applicant's requesting approval to construct 2 barns where 2 previously existing barns stood on the property as indicated in the application. In the 1980s into the 1990s, the applicant built the 2 previously existing shed row type barns and the paddocks. The first barn was demolished approximately 15 years ago after storm damage and the second demolished approximately 10 years ago. The applicant would now like to once again have horses on the property and therefore is requesting approval to reconstruct the two previously existing barns. The proposed barns will be located within the existing paddock at the rear of the property. They will be 10 feet in height and will have 10-foot setbacks from the property lines. The 32 by 12-foot barns will have two 12 by 12-foot stalls and a 12 by 8-foot storage room each. They will have whiteboard and batten siding with a black shingled roof. 507 Sumter Street Southeast, located in Historic Overlay District, specifically Historic District 1, and is own single-family stable. The Aiken County Assessor's website lists the construction date of the primary residence as 1966. This property does not have an Aiken Historic Resource Survey card. As this is a new building construction and not an alteration to the existing structure, a designation category is not required for the application to be reviewed.
Okay.
And the zoning ordinance states an activity shall be considered visible even if hidden by vegetation or fence. An alteration requires a certificate even if the color, texture, and composition of material, excluding paint, is not discernible from a street right-of-way.
Thank you. Is Mr. or Mrs. Radford here? Thank you. Would you please state your name and address for the record and add any comments you'd like to about the application?
Yes, my name is Eric Radford, retired colonel. I live at 507 Sumter Street Southeast. We've been there since 1986. As you mentioned earlier, initially when I built the paddocks was 1988 with one barn at that time, and then we came back a few years later and had the second barn. I think Rebecca's done a good job about detailing all the information on the properties and what we'd like to proceed with. So I guess you did show some of the pictures where I wanted to make sure that you were able to see from the Grace Avenue side that where the barns are. Was probably the earlier one.
Keep going back, sorry.
Yeah, please. Right here.
Oh.
Go back.
Okay.
You can see right here, this is from the Grace Avenue side, so barns would be in the southwest corner, back over here behind the Guster's border of the property. So, not that means it, but anyway, just let be noted, it'd be back in this corner right here on the right.
And is that a street right there or on the top left of the photograph you pointed out? Or is that?
That's just the easement, I mean, right
Easement.
away by the city.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's great right now with all the storm damage there, but anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
I just wanted to, like I say, when you come from the entrance from the Grace Avenue side.
Okay. All right.
Like I say, I was overseas.
Okay. Let's pull that up.
And for periods of time, the storm damage, the water damage caused the roofs to leak and rot and stuff. So when I got back home, the first one I had to just for safety's sake, I had to make sure it was torn down because it was becoming a safety issue. And we haven't had any horses there for several years now, but we'd like to get back to that.
Okay. Could we pull up the landscape plan, Rick? I think it's near the beginning, maybe. Keep going. Keep going. A little bit more. Right there. That one. On the right. So that would be a pretty accurate representation.
Yes, and just like I say, it's
There's
just
a
paddock, it's just
there's a pointer you can use up there if you look around, a laser pointer, and that way you can talk in the mic and everybody can hear you.
Like I say, this is the existing paddock. Is you can see where it highlighted right here. This area right here.
Right.
These are the two locations of the barns right here, with the 10-foot setbacks, and this is where they were, initially.
Mm-hmm.
But like I say, it's just there's not going to be any shrubbery, and it's just grass paddocks.
Okay. All right. Any questions or comments from the board for Mr. Radford?
If, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Eric, you're gonna just put the proposed barn, they'll be identical, is that right? And that barn will be in the same two spots that you put in the landscape, okay.
That's correct.
Well, I remember the barns from way back, so, And the pony, I was trying to remember.
Pony. Yeah, Agony.
Yeah, so, and thank you for the consistency that you did with the other neighborhood barns, because the barns in the neighborhood are very much similar to what you're proposing, so thank you.
I think in the pictures I submitted, there, the Vogels are probably across
Right.
the street, and Lisa Darden is behind us, and so we've all been in the area. And then Mary Catherine on the other side still has paddocks, but here you see the pictures right now.
Right.
Okay.
But thank you for considering all that.
All right. Any other comments or questions from the board?
What he's showing us is very consistent with the neighborhood, very much in context with the neighborhood. I think it'll be a good addition.
Okay. All right. Well, Mr. Rayford, if you'll sit down, we'll see if there's any public comment about this. Thank you. Anyone would like to speak in favor of this application from the public? Okay. Anyone like to speak opposed to this application? Favor? Yeah, come on up. Come to the podium and introduce yourself, please. Give us your name and address for the record.
Sarah Greenhill Wilderson, 553 Sumter Street Southeast. So I'm on the other side of Mary Catherine. I think it's a wonderful idea. More horse barns we have in the historic district, the better for all.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your comment. Okay. I guess we are ready to entertain a motion. Does anyone on the board like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we approve application number CERH 25-024 as submitted, because it's in harmony with the neighborhood, and it goes by our guidelines.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. All opposed? Seeing none, the measure is unanimous. You have your approval, sir. Thank you for your service to our country as well. Okay. Rick, if you're ready, we'll move on to our next application.
The applicant is requesting approval to remove the existing storm windows on the dormer windows and install a drainable horizontal louver behind the window sashes. As renovations of the north wing of the library were conducted, it was determined that a system requiring fresh air intake was required for the renovated building to meet current building codes. Therefore, the applicant proposes to allow this fresh air intake to be accessed via the north-facing attic windows. The black louver proposed to be installed behind the existing window sash is meant to look like a shadow behind the windows, which will allow the current code to be met while having minimal disruption of the historic facade.
Okay. All right. Is Mr. Sanders here? Yes. Would you please give us your name and address for the record?
Steve Denton.
Okay.
400 Augusta Street, Greenville, South Carolina, 29609, 601, sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Steve.
Sure.
Anything you'd like to add to this application?
No, the only thing I'd like to say is that, you know, we understand the importance of this building in the city of Aiken, and we've tried to do as good a job as we possibly could to disguise these louvers that are needed for the restoration of the building. So we hope that we've achieved that.
Well, it does mean a lot to the community. My grandfather and mother both attended school there, so I personally have an affiliation for it. So basically, you're going up onto the dormer shown on the picture there.
That's correct.
Removing the old storm window, which doesn't really have much of a purpose, taking the glass out,
Correct.
putting in some louvers and screens behind it so the air can flow through those. But from the outside, really, it'll still look like the grids are there because the original window's still there and all. So it's going to be pretty inconspicuous from the outside even though you've got a great solution for,
We think so.
Yeah.
The white sash, because they're white currently, it doesn't really show up white here, but they're definitely white sashes.
right?
And with the louvers being painted black, it'll be a shadow just like it is today.
Yeah. Do you have a photograph, Rick, you can pull up, of the building, maybe? Yeah, right there. So we can see in the top photograph, the storm window covering the actual sash. So that's what we'll be removing, all the glass work, the storm window. And with the louvers being black, they should blend right in.
You shouldn't see anything,
Right.
honestly.
Okay. I think it's a great solution. Members of the board, any questions or comments for this applicant? Okay. Seeing none, I'll ask you to sit down and we'll see if there's any public comment. Anyone in the public want to speak in favor of this application? Anyone in the public want to speak opposed to this application? All right. Seeing none, I'll call for a motion from the board. She's mean.
She is, isn't she?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we approve application number CRH 25-029 to remove the windows and replace them with louvers for the HVAC system. And because it's not very visible and it goes by our guidelines.
Thank you.
Second.
A second. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Okay. Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed? Likewise, seeing none, the motion is unanimous. The COA is approved. Thank you for the work you guys are doing for the community. Okay, Rick, we're ready to move on.
Okay, the applicant is requesting approval to install a swimming pool in the front yard of 408 South Boundary Avenue Southeast. Proposed pool is L-shaped pool, dimensions of 46 inches. But, not sure about the dimensions there, but L-shaped pool and includes a spa. It's proposed to be located in front of the existing accessory structure, which was granted approval for a porch addition at the December 2024 DRB meeting. Skipping down a little bit, there was a wall separating the front yard from the proposed future pool area that was been approved, and that will stand 5 foot 10 inches tall. And they got the Board of Zoning Appeals have granted a variance to permit the swimming pool to be located in the front yard of the property at their January meeting.
Okay. Is that it, Rick?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate what you're doing here tonight. So, if we'd ask Jeff or Jacqueline Smith to come forward. Thank you, Jeff. Would you give us your name and address, please?
Absolutely. Jeff Smith, 408 South Boundary Avenue Southeast. Mr. Chairman, thank you again for the opportunity to be here before the board. Looking forward to getting the final touches on this project done. As you know, since our last meeting, we kind of tabled the pool pending some BZA approval, and they did grant us the position that we were hoping to put it in, since it is more kind of the side yard than the front yard. But yes, hopefully this is going to be a nice addition to the overall project.
Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed that out, that that the BZA did approve your zoning variance, and because of the way the house is placed further back on the lot, there's really no backyard, and so this is it's kind of your side yard. I know several people have said it's the front of the house, but it's really more the side of the house. And as you pointed out, we at a previous session approved a new wall to go around, and the wall in that area is how high again?
The wall surrounding the entire pool will be 5 foot 10 inch. I'm sorry, 5 foot 10 inches tall. Correct. Yep.
Okay. And so that'll, if we've got a diagram of that, Rick, maybe where the wall goes. Keep going. We can use that one, I guess. So it's kind of messy there, but you can see where the front sidewalk goes. Right. Thank you, Jeff. And there's the wall that's already been approved, and that wall around even goes through the front yard there and kind of cuts it off and makes it on the side is all 5'10", which is almost 6 foot tall. So it's not really going to be visible from the road at all. That's because of the previous approvals. So, okay. Anything else you want to add to the application?
Yes,
okay. Let me open it up for the board to ask questions. Pat, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just wonder if we shouldn't make just a correction, at least when we make the motion, and refer to it as the side yard, because, you know, this really is as you say, it's really, there's no backyard.
Right.
So the side yard is really and it's really more to the side. Because I think it could start a precedent to having pools in the front yard along South Boundary, and I don't know that that's really in keeping with the historic character of that street. So I think if we could, I don't know, probably we should ask our attorney if that is all right, but I do think that we need to emphasize that it's really in the side yard.
So I heard you say you were going to make the motion?
No, I don't. I'll make the motion.
Who's mean?
That's right. That's right.
Don't point at me.
Okay.
Who's going to get me yet on that?
That's right.
So,
Daniel.
yeah, I'll weigh in real quickly. I don't know that it requires a formal amendment to the application or anything. I mean, I think it's just an observation the board is able to make for the public record that, you know, the application may say front yard, which is somewhat off-putting, but clearly in this situation, it's a side yard situation. So,
Thank you. Thank you both.
That should be in the motion, though, shouldn't it? Side yard, front yard?
I think as long as it's in the public discussion
Okay.
on this, and I forgive me, I'm still pretty new to y'all's process. When y'all issue the actual certificate of appropriateness, where does that language come from? Do you know? Does anyone know?
Well, part of it comes from the motion, and then there's usually a finding of fact that goes on there.
So staff prepares that?
Yes.
I think when staff prepares the certificate of appropriateness, they can
add
that it was
words
side
to
yard.
it. Okay.
The board saw this as a side yard. So that way, if someone pulls certificates of appropriateness and y'all are worried about some sort of precedent,
Okay.
you'd be protected. Yep.
Your wisdom.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments from
I
the
just
board?
point out that's Aiken Public Education right there.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
And we appreciate, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, if I could just mention it, as far as zoning goes, and I think that's where that's coming from, is a corner lot is 2 fronts and 2 sides. Because a lot of times rear setbacks are bigger, so with the 2 fronts, we allow the other sides to be smaller. If it was rear, it'd be bigger. So it's basically nomenclature. But it's how we define it as allowing a corner lot to have more room going back away from the corner.
Right.
That just happens to be in this case, the front yard is, like I say, 2 fronts for us, but.
Yep. And in your description, the other front would be on Union Street.
Yeah, it'd be,
Yeah.
it's a
And
corner
this
lot,
is
we have
away
2
from Union Street, right?
Officially, our ordinance has, we have 2 fronts and 2 sides and no
Right.
rear. But also, I just want to, there's a typo in the memo, but it's 46 foot by 20 foot. We had inches, that's what it kind of.
Oh, is it say inches? Okay, I'm glad you caught that. I don't suppose you want a 46-inch
I'm
pool.
pretty sure we caught that before. Yeah.
Did you really want a 4-foot pool?
That's right. Thanks, Rick. Okay, Barbara, please go ahead.
Yeah, that would be, I wanted to say, I know the work that they put in to make it be in harmony with the homes along South Boundary. I remember the inspiration you talked to us about. You went around the neighborhood, looked at what was done, and that you took care and concern to make sure it was in harmony, and specifically understood that the front of your house was going to be visible. It is not going to be stockade 6 foot tall, and that is consistent with the character, and it was consistent with another home on South Boundary that you used as your inspiration. And
Borderline plagiarism, but yes.
we would
And
not
and
say
it's-
that.
Yeah, and we have a section on recreational structures, Daniel was
Right.
just pointing out, and it's consistent with
Right.
what's in that section
I-
also.
I just think that's important for us to establish
Right.
the process and what he did, and the work that you and your wife did to get you on your project where it is.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep. Anything else from the board? Okay, Mr. Smith, if you'll have a seat, we'll see if there's anyone in the public would like to speak in favor of this application at this time. Okay, anyone would like to speak opposed to this application? All right, hearing none, I will ask if there's a board member who'd like to make an a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you,
All right.
Pat.
All right. Oh, you're welcome, Mr. Chairman. Yes, on application number CERH25032, I move that the board find as fact that the proposed project is in harmony with the neighborhood, and it is also consistent with the guidelines under recreation structures, which is at page 43 in our design guidelines. And it has already been approved by the BZA.
Right, okay. All right, do I have a second? Second. All right, John. Thank you both. Any further discussion from the board? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of this application as the motion stated? Okay, anybody opposed to this application? It looks like it was unanimous. The COA is granted. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay, Rick, I think we're ready to move on.
The applicant is requesting approval to replace all the windows at 348 Newberry Street Southwest. They believe the existing 6/6 wood windows are original, but the 4 2-2 windows with the horizontal grid patterns in the kitchen are not. All of the windows except the 4 kitchen windows are proposed to be replaced in the same size and style as is existing. The kitchen windows are proposed to be replaced in a 3-1 vertical grid pattern. Proposed new windows are white double-hung vinyl-clad windows, and they're quoted as having full divided lights, including grills that are permanently applied to the interior and exterior of the window with an aluminum spacer between the glass. And the applicants mentioned, has listed 3 reasons for these window replacements. The existing wooden frames are beginning to rot. Some of the windows have settled, no longer able to be locked, and that's caused safety concerns. And some of the windows are unable to be open, and 2 will only open a couple of inches, which is another safety concern. And that concludes the staff report.
Okay, thank you. Is Ms. Sampson here? Please come forward and give us your name and address for the record.
And Sampson, 339 Barnard Avenue.
Thank you. Anything you'd like to add to what staff stated?
I don't think so. I think in the other meeting, I mean, I just said these windows are old. I think they're original windows, and after almost 100 years, they're obviously deteriorating and need to be replaced for the reasons he said. They've got windows that won't open, windows that if you open them won't stay open, windows that won't lock, and then the screens that are rotting, not the windows per se, but screens. So that's my reason for trying to get them replaced.
Yep, and this is a high-quality window with the grids permanently applied, like we like to see in the historic district. So
Yes.
Thank you for your choice of materials.
Well, I was told by my builder this is what I needed to come forth
Okay.
for. So I said, okay.
He was right. Okay, any comments or questions from the board for Ms. Sampson? Okay. All right. Well, then I'll ask you to sit down, and we'll see if there's anyone in the audience that would like to comment in favor of this application. Okay. Anyone opposed to this application would like to speak? All right. Seeing none, I will call for a motion from the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board approve a certificate of appropriateness on application number CERH 25-034 as submitted because we find and conclude the project is in the application is in harmony with the prevailing standards and the neighborhood, conform with application guidelines of the design review manual, including those specifically talking about windows, as in our packet this evening. Motion is further supported in the findings that the existing wood frames are beginning to rot. Some of the windows have settled or no longer being able to be locked. There are safety concerns with that, as well as the windows are unable to be open, and two will only be open a couple of inches. In addition, the replacement windows are of highest quality and are consistent with what this board and its manual requires.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board? I would like to point out that the applicant is replacing the windows with the same grid pattern, which is a 6/6 all around the house, with the exception of the kitchen, which I think are kind of odd anyway, and that you're requesting a 3/1 grid pattern in the kitchen area. And again, that's a very appropriate choice there. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that, the grid selection. So any further discussion? No, I will call for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hands. Okay. All opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries unanimously and the COA is granted. Thank you. All right. Rick, you want to move us along?
Okay, this is the 432 Orangeburg Street Southeast. The applicants are requesting approval to construct a wood privacy fence on the left side property line. And they explained that there had been a chain link fence along the property line, which was later removed. And they're proposing a new fence as a 8-foot dog-eared privacy fence with a natural finish. The zoning ordinance states that no fence or wall shall exceed 4 feet in height between the front of the principal building and the street, unless there's a similar fence on adjacent lot. And no fence or wall on any other portion lot may exceed 6 feet in height. However, the design review board can grant a higher height up to 12 feet.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you. All right. Is anyone here to represent this application? Please come forward. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Sarah Wilderson.
Okay.
553 Sumter Street, Southeast.
And would you have anything to add to the comments that the staff read?
Yes, I measured incorrectly. I would like to have a 6-foot fence, not an 8-foot fence.
Okay. So although you've got 8 in your application, you would.
That was my fault.
That's all right. So you just want to amend that to be 6?
Please.
Okay. And in terms of going past the front plane of your house, what dimension drop to 4 as it to transition out to the street? Okay.
To a column which is on the street.
I got it. Okay. Thank you for that. Anything else you want to comment on?
No.
Okay. Any comments from the board or questions from the board? Okay. All right. If you'll have a seat, we'll see if there's any public comment. Anyone from the public like to comment in favor of this application? Seeing none. Anyone opposed to this application? All right. I will call for a motion from the board, and I would like to remind you that we need to mention in the motion that we have amended per the applicant's request the heights So if you would please add those comments into your motion. Amended, amendment to your motion. Is that right?
Almost. So what you could do is you could make a motion to approve the application as amended with regards to the height of the requested fence. It's what we would call a friendly amendment because the applicant has asked for it. And if y'all find that's appropriate with regards to your guidelines, then the motion would just need to reflect that certificate of appropriateness reflected when issued.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I'll make a motion,
All right.
Mr. Chairman. Make a motion that we approve, application CERH 25-035 with the amendment that the, fence would be 4 feet in the front and 8 feet, 6 feet in the,
Along the side.
there. So, and it meets all the criteria as stated in the design review manual, page 36.
Okay. A second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second from Board Member Barbara Morgan. And any further discussion from the board? Anybody? Okay. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously, and the COA is granted. Thank you. All right. I think we're down to our favorite application of the night, the last one. Rick, you want to lead us off a little bit, please? Yeah. Let's let Rick lead it off, and then I'll ask you to speak. You stay right there, okay?
Okay, sure,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. You're fine.
All right, so the applicant's requesting approval to replace the roof. Existing roof is a black slate roof. Proposed new roof is synthetic, recycled, black shingle roof. The physical sample he's holding has been submitted, and along with the brochure and photos, applicant proposed repair damaged roof sheathing, repair the rafters, repair the ceiling joist, and install an ice and water shield before installing new shingles. After the roof acquired storm damage, the owner had the roof temporarily tarped. At least 200 tiles were damaged, and a 20 by 130-foot roof area was tarped. Includes staff report.
Thank you. Please introduce yourself and give us your address.
Sure. Hello, I'm David Donahue, owner of Kelsboro, 726 Grace Avenue Southeast, Aiken, South Carolina, 29801.
Thank you. Anything you'd like to add?
Just you can see from the extent of the slides, and actually you may want to flip through all of them so you can see the tree damage the drones took. But we basically must do an entire roof replacement. The quarry where that original slate came from closed during the financial crisis. We've researched it. We can't get anything even close to match it. And the synthetic alternative, we can get much closer to color, much less weight, much less expense. And you have approved it on Thomas Ravenel's house, which I think looks stunning. And it's just going to be a win-win situation going forward for all of us. But we do need to get this roof on this house because the water damage is extensive, even with the tarping.
Yeah, so you've got a lot of damage in the house as
It's
well.
unbelievable, yeah.
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 Sorry.
It's been
Beautiful home.
Thank
Just
you.
sorry.
We'll do our best to restore it.
And we would appreciate that as well as you, I'm sure. So it's a very notable property in Aiken.
Thank you.
So thank you for what you're doing. Any comments or questions from the board for the applicant?
Just a restatement, I think you mentioned in the work session that it had a 50-year warranty with it.
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
There's a 50-year warranty.
Right.
Okay, good.
Expected out of that.
Okay.
And the installation is exactly like it would be with a traditional slate, so.
Yes, sir.
All right. A lot of storm damage. Okay. If there's no other board members having questions, I'll ask you to sit down and we'll call for public comment.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak in favor of this application? Okay. Seeing none. Anyone want to speak opposed to this application? All right. I will turn it back over to the board. Do I have a motion in regards to this application?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we approve number CERH 25-038, which is a request to replace the roof, the existing slate shingles with a different, what do I want to say? A synthetic shingle that looks just like slate.
Okay.
And it, I would suggest maybe you save the slate and sell it to somebody else. They might need it to fix their house. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. We have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion among the board? Okay. All right, here.
I think that's amazing. I've not ever seen this substitute slate up close and personal, so to speak, before.
Right.
And I'll tell you, I think it's amazing.
Yeah, it looks just like it.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
I agree. Everybody that has slate's gonna want that.
Okay. All right. At this time, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the application or the motion? All opposed? Seeing none, the application passes unanimously. Thank you for your time and patience with us. I know you're the last one, so you had to wait through all the rest of them. Thank you for being patient with us.
Yeah. I'd like to make a point of the fact that I think we've set a record for the DRB tonight, going through this many, and it just now clocking in at 7:30.
That's good. We got a good team.
Well, we had a lot of good applications.
I will tell you this, I do believe it has a lot to do with the way our chairman runs.
I was gonna say, I was gonna give our chairman credit.
Yeah.
And since I've been on this, all the votes have been unanimous.
No, I don't know, it's gonna go, what am I gonna do? But I've just never seen it.
All right. Meeting adjourned.